Statistically speaking, you're watching this video with some level of caffeine already in your bloodstream. Like, right now. And I'm not judging. I've got some in me too. But here's the twist. Caffeine isn't the problem. The problem is how adults are using caffeine to compensate for terrible sleep, stress, and a schedule that feels like a Jenga tower balanced on generational trauma. So asking, is caffeine bad for you, is really the wrong question. It's not good or bad. It's how you're using it. I'm Jake and this is Bottom Line. I spent over a decade in the supplement industry, on the brand side and on the manufacturing side. And yes, I personally consume caffeine pretty much every day. Before we move on, please hit that subscribe button so we stay in touch. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So instead of treating caffeine like it's good or evil, the better question is, how am I actually using it? Because caffeine is a tool, but a ton of adults are using it like an emergency drywall patch to hide the existential cracks in their identity. And most of us don't realize that our caffeine habits say way more about our sleep, stress, and coping patterns than we'd ever admit out loud. So today we're going to break this down through 4 simple questions every adult should be asking themselves about caffeine. And yes, one of them involves your energy drink with electrolytes that's actually just a designer stimulant in a swimsuit. Question number 1, how much am I actually drinking? Most adults dramatically underestimate how much caffeine they consume, like by hundreds of milligrams, because we think we're drinking a coffee, when actually we're drinking a Starbucks venti cold brew, which is around 300 milligrams, which is basically a pre-workout dressed up as a cozy autumn lifestyle brand. And then there's the hidden caffeine sources. Some of you are proudly like, I don't drink energy drinks. Okay, King, but your greens powder has 150 milligrams of natural green tea extract, which is basically just caffeine with a Whole Foods employee badge. And I love the people who say they don't drink caffeine after 2 p.m. Yeah, but you pounded the bucked up pre-workout with 350 milligrams of caffeine at 10 a.m. So your body is still legally in tomorrow. So quick nerd moment. What even is caffeine? Caffeine is a stimulant molecule that blocks adenosine, the thing that makes you feel sleepy. That's it. The mechanism is stupid simple. And yes, the caffeine in coffee and the caffeine in a pre-workout scoop are the same molecule. Caffeine is caffeine. But here's where people get confused. It can feel different depending on the delivery system. Coffee has other compounds, chlorogenic acids, antioxidants, blah, 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 that slow the release a little. Caffeine anhydrous, the pure caffeine powder used in supplements, hits faster and harder because it's just straight violence in powdered form. So if natural caffeine feels smoother, you're not crazy. That's just the other stuff in coffee slowing it down, not a different chemical. Question number 2, am I using caffeine for energy or avoidance? Here's where people get uncomfortable, because sometimes caffeine isn't a performance tool. It's a coping mechanism. And I'm not mad about that or here to guilt you about it. I get it. Life is exhausting. Half the time we're not drinking caffeine to be better. We're drinking caffeine just to feel like a barely animated Pixar background extra who's trying to finish expense reports. Like, I know I'm not being responsible with caffeine every single day. You know you're not. We all pretend we're being intentional, but really, we're just a bunch of adults using a psychoactive stimulant to avoid admitting that we're chronically underslept and have a low spiritual battery. And that's where caffeine quietly becomes dangerous. Not because it's toxic, but because it tricks you into believing you're okay. Caffeine is the adult version of a smiley face sticker on the check engine light. Now let's ask the uncomfortable biology question. Should my body even be using caffeine in the first place? Because some people are fast metabolizers. Caffeine hits them quick and disappears quick. Other people are slow metabolizers. Caffeine lingers like a bad breakup. And those people are the ones who sip an iced latte at 10 a.m. and are still wide awake at 1:30 a.m., staring at the ceiling like it's broadcasting spoilers for their future. And if you already have high baseline anxiety or heart palpitations, caffeine isn't a productivity hack. It's just adding gasoline to a brain already stuck in fight or flight mode. And that's the problem with caffeine being socially normalized. It feels safe because everybody does it. But for some people, caffeine is like handing someone explosives and saying, don't worry, they're organic. And the last question is the one nobody wants to ask. Is caffeine actually making my underlying problem worse? So here's the boring sounding science that literally everyone ignores. Caffeine doesn't give you energy. It just blocks adenosine. Adenosine is the you should probably sleep now molecule. And caffeine is basically a bouncer shoving adenosine out of the club so you can pretend the party isn't over yet. And caffeine's half-life in adults is usually around 5 to 6 hours, sometimes longer, which means the caffeine you slammed at noon is still in your system at 6 p.m., like an annoying house guest who doesn't pick up on social cues and doesn't know when to leave. So a lot of adults don't actually have insomnia. They have caffeine-induced jet lag while standing still. Your brain is trying to wind down, and caffeine is like, nope, we're starting a new project. You're tired. You should rest. We don't have time to rest. We have 10 hours of tasks we're gonna fit in 8, and then panic about what we didn't finish at 11 p.m. My caffeine tolerance? Drink more, pretend consequences don't apply to us. So here's the part where we bring this back to sanity. Caffeine isn't evil. Honestly, caffeine has some legitimately solid science behind it. Better reaction time, better endurance and performance, better cognitive focus. For most healthy adults, 200 to 400 milligrams a day is considered a safe, evidence-based range. That's like one venti cold brew or one strong pre-workout. Not both, stacked like a personality trait. And if you want a super simple rule of thumb, try to avoid caffeine within 6 hours of when you plan to sleep. Not perfect science, just a solid evidence-based guideline. And by the way, I'm not a fan of those 300 plus milligram pre-workouts that act like they're a personality replacement. Most people don't need that. That's not performance. That's just Russian roulette with your heart. If you need 350 milligrams of caffeine just to warm up, your real problem isn't caffeine. It's recovery. The problem isn't caffeine. The problem is the way adults use caffeine to cover up the real issues. Sleep debt, burnout, chronic stress, and pretending we don't need rest because we identify as grind set, but make it depressed. You don't need to quit caffeine. You just need to stop using caffeine as a substitute for actually taking care of yourself. And I'm gonna try to take that advice myself. So for answering the original question, is caffeine bad for you? The honest answer is, it depends on how you're using it. Used intentionally, caffeine is a game changer. Used as a coping mechanism, it just keeps you stuck. And if you want to make better decisions with supplements and not just grab whatever some influencer screams about on TikTok, that's literally what we do here every week. I'm Jake, this is Bottom Line, and if this helped you even just a little bit, tap that subscribe button. Come back for more honest, zero bullshit breakdowns of the supplement world, so you don't have to figure this out alone. And yes, you probably do need to go to bed earlier tonight. Thanks for checking out Bottom Line. I'll see you next time.